Vortex viewers are invited to a special taping with Michael Voris and Canadian broadcaster Michael Koren at the Detroit studios of RealCatholicTV.com on Tuesday, June 14th at 7 p.m. Michael Voris was a guest on Michael Koren's Canadian TV show a couple of months ago and has now authored a provocative book entitled Why Catholics Are Right. So join the two Michaels right here in our studio for what is sure to be a spirited and lively taping, as well as book signing opportunity. For further details, click on the link. Hello and welcome to today's edition of Catholic News Roundup. I'm Matthew McAuliffe. Before we get into today's news, just another quick reminder that we now have a resource page attached to RealCatholicTV.com containing additional news stories and other resources from our stories right here, as well as commentary on current events in Catholic culture happening all around the world. To check it out, go to realcatholictv.blogspot.com by clicking on the link right next to the video screen. And now for today's news. Nigerian baby farm busted. Police have raided a large house that was being used as a factory for human babies, who were then being sold into slavery. 32 pregnant girls between the ages of 15 and 17 were rescued as a result. The building was stormed after reports that young girls were being held against their will and forced to make babies for the property owner. The Associated Press reports the raid is one of many that have taken place over the past few years after an alleged network of such clinics was identified in Nigeria. The owner of the building faces at least 14 years in prison for human trafficking in a country flooded with similar cases. Kidnapped bishop now safe. A Central African bishop who was kidnapped while on his way to administering confirmation is now free. The bishop of Bambari knew of rebel groups in the area, but was still determined to administer the sacraments and refused to cancel his trip. Sources are speculating why rebels deliberately targeted and abducted him, only to release him and keep his car and driver. The bishop is currently under the protection of the villagers he administered the sacraments to, waiting for ensured safety to return home. Big Apple breaches religious rights. The most recent court ruling in a series of back-and-forth decisions says that religious groups in New York City may now not have access to public school buildings for their worship. The latest ruling overturns a previous decision from 2002 where a lower court ruled it would be unfair to exclude religious groups from public school buildings. Now the courts of New York insist it is a violation of the First Amendment to allow religious communities to have use of public school buildings because when they do, quote, the place has, for a short time, become the church, end quote, and is a violation of church and state. For the full story, please visit our news resource page by clicking on the link right over here. Stay with us. We'll be back in just a few seconds.
Catholic News Roundup is brought to you in part by NewOxfordReview.org, the voice of Catholic Orthodoxy, in print and on the web, and RenewAmerica.com, expanding the influence of America's grassroots in the cause of freedom.
Nepal punishes religious converts. Switching from one religion to another may soon be punishable by up to 5 years in prison and heavy fines if Parliament passes a newly proposed law. Father Silas Bogatti, executive director of Caritas in the country and a convert from Hinduism, points out that if the new law passes, it will soon be a crime to even preach Christ to non-Catholics. Of Nepal's 29 million inhabitants, 81% are Hindu and only 8,000 are Catholic, which is much less than 1%. Father Bogatti emphasizes that the law, while introducing religious persecution, will also threaten those that depend on the church's charitable works to survive. Christians being killed. 105,000 Christians are martyred every year, according to latest numbers from a European security organization. The director of the study says 100,000 Christians are martyred every year. Do the math. That's one martyrdom every 5 minutes. The data was released at a conference on Christian, Jewish, Muslim interfaith dialogue. The director of the study says, quote, if it is not acknowledged that the persecution of Christians is the first worldwide emergency in the matter of violence and religious discrimination, the dialogue between religions will only produce beautiful conferences but no concrete results, end quote. These numbers do not include victims in civil or international wars. To see the full article, visit our resource page by clicking on the link right outside the screen. I'm Matthew McAuliffe. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure and tune in tomorrow for your daily dose of Catholic News Roundup right here on RealCatholicTV.com. And be sure to check out The Vortex today, where Michael will talk about who really has belief in God. Thanks for tuning in. Be sure and tell all your friends about us, and as always, God bless you.
Catholic News Roundup is brought to you in part by PewSitter.com, your online Catholic newspaper for the third millennium, CatholicMediaCoalition.org, in line with the Church, online with the world.
And TheAmericanCatholic.com, politics and culture from a Catholic perspective.